everybody. Like I said, there were so many questions, so let's roll into the final four. And the first question is, do we ever really get over someone's death? 2 people in my family have passed away suddenly this year. The most recent funeral is actually happening right now in the UK. I live in Canada and couldn't make it. And so it doesn't quite feel real because I'm not there. Perhaps my question is actually more specific. How does a person grieve or work through someone's passing when they feel so detached from what has happened? And there's a couple of questions in here. Yes, we can fully heal and grieve and move on from someone's death. We can get over it, so to speak. And that really is through our own process. And don't compare your process to anyone else's. Grief is a weird and fickle friend and foe. It can come in, all of a sudden we can feel like crying, or then all of a sudden there'll be this swing and we're super angry. And then we wish it hadn't happened and we forget that they're dead and we're like, I'm gonna call that person, and we realize we can't, and then we're swung back into the crying. And so just know that it can be all over the place for a while. And that's totally okay. And just allow yourself to feel it. I'd encourage you to lean in to those feelings, as uncomfortable as they are. Trust me, from someone who's been through it multiple times, losing members of my family and my own father, like, something that really helped me was going to therapy and feeling safe to cry about it and talk about how tired I was because of it, because I was grieving. I was like going through a depressive episode. You know, it was really hard, and that's okay. And so seeing a therapist can be really helpful in letting yourself feel it. And then the detached portion, I think for you, you're going to have to talk about it with a therapist or with a friend or with a family member so that you feel like you have a story. And I know that sounds really weird, but like the way that our brain works is that it needs a story in order to, create that marble like an inside out and roll it away, like to process it. And because you have these bits and pieces that are missing from the story because you weren't there and you weren't able to participate in the way that maybe you had hoped and would have been more emotionally helpful for you, we're going to have to fill it in with other people's stories. And that's okay too. And so it's okay to ask that cousin or brother or mother or sister, whomever, how was the funeral and what did it look like? And it'll be helpful for them too, surprisingly. They may not love it and they may be like, I don't want to talk about it, and be like, do you have photos from it? I'd really like to see what it was like. And I was really upset that I wasn't able to go. And, maybe give it a while and then ask if they're not open to talking about it now. But we're going to have to fill in that story. And that can help, help us feel more connected and less detached so that we can process it through at our own pace. And something that was really helpful for me and maybe for you is journaling about it and talking about all the things that you are going to miss about that person, or all that you wish they'd been around for, and all the good times too. Make sure you remember those good times. And then I even created a wreath where it's like a little wicker wreath, and you can tie ribbons, and each ribbon is like a memory of that person, like a positive memory. So you can be like for my dad, I was like, oh, the first time I remember going fishing with him, and he picked me up when I was a kid, and he put me in the back of our Bronco, and we drove out. I was still sleeping on the way there, and then I woke up, and we got to sit in the boat and eat sandwiches. It sounds silly, but like all those little memories, you tie those ribbons on that wreath, and you can hang that wreath up until, for me, there came a point in time where I didn't really need it to be up anymore. And you'll get to that point too. So just give yourself the time to process it. Do anything you need to kind of get those feelings out or to fill in that story. And I promise it does get better, because yes, we can move on. Question number 2. One day I might want to have children, but I have emetophobia, and it can often feel like it's taking over my life. Being sick terrifies me, and it seems silly that that would get in the way of me wanting to become pregnant. My question is it possible to get over this phobia? I also had anorexia for over a decade, and the thought of my body changing even more also terrifies me. Just like any phobia, doing exposure therapy can make it go away. Finding a therapist who really understands what emetophobia is, and it's really the fear of becoming sick. If any of you don't know, and I have a whole video on it, you can watch it, you can search it on my channel, but exposure therapy is the best against phobias, period. Because it'll show you that what we're worried about isn't quite as scary as we think. And yes, I'm not saying that like by the end of exposure therapy, we're like making ourselves get sick, but we'll get to the point where even the thought of getting sick or watching someone else get sick on TV or in person or whatever isn't that bad. And we can build up to those things and those experiences, and just keeping in mind that we won't have to necessarily make ourselves sick, but maybe a therapist would think that's beneficial and they'd give you like Ipecac, which makes you throw up. They might do that. But knowing that exposure therapy would be best, and talking it out and processing it through will be really beneficial and help you hopefully not have that worry anymore. That's the whole goal of exposure therapy. But then as far as an eating disorder goes, I would encourage you to do the same, to work that into your treatment where you're considering what it will be like for you to have a belly with a baby in it and for your body to change and your breasts get bigger and your hips widen and you gain weight. How are we going to deal with that? Can we see it as a way to nurture our child? I usually, with my eating disorder patients, I try to get the conversation to shift from your body being different and changing and your body being an incubator for your baby. It's the way that it cares for the baby. All the food that you feed your body is feeding your baby and it's helping your baby grow. And so sometimes changing the conversation around like your body into it's this incubator for my baby and it's the way that I care for my child because I want to become a parent. And so just shifting our mind into that can really help get rid of kind of the eating disorder thoughts that may creep up. And honestly, I find my patients who had eating disorders in their past and they become pregnant sometimes have this like awakening where then their eating disorder disappears while they're pregnant. So maybe that could happen for you too. Question number 3. I'm having issues with sleep at the moment and was wondering if you could do some research or research wizardry to help me out. I know I have a tendency to get extremely panicked to the point of being unable to function due to PTSD amongst other annoying diagnoses. But every time I'm about to drift off to sleep, I have this whole body wave of panic. It's hard to explain, but it's like a sudden and really scary adrenaline rush that swoops through you. It's like a split second of being absolutely petrified, then as soon as I'm awake fully, it's gone again. I don't jolt physically, and there aren't twitches, it's all internal, but it happens over and over in a short pace of time. If my partner turns in their sleep or moves or make noise, I have the same feeling, which was never a thing before. It started happening when I became really panicked and distressed about a stress-related skin issue. Since then, it's plagued me, and I have to self-talk and tell myself it's in my head and other things to finally fall asleep. I have no idea if you can shed some light on this, but it's actually quite frightening. I was thinking it might be a stress hormone or something. Yes, I do have some advice on this, and I will link the best thing. I want you to rewatch this video if you haven't watched it before. I will link in the description my video, my tips for sleep, because there are a lot of CBT techniques that can apply to our sleep that can really, really help and hopefully change anything that's going on. And I would definitely watch that because that's really my number one advice for this, okay? So click that link, watch it. But to take it a little bit further, I do think this is a stress response. I personally, if I'm super stressed out and I'm not taking care of myself, because I'm not perfect either, remember, I will wake in a panic. I'll have stress dreams and I'll wake up and it's as if I forgot that I needed to make videos or I was late and I didn't even show up for that thing I told someone I'd be a part of. It could be any number of things. I wake up in a panic and I'm sweating and it's horrible. And I believe that that's similar to what's happening for you. And so what I would encourage you to do is to start a new routine before bed. And these are all routines and things that you should do to help calm your system down. Now, that could be journaling about things that are going on in your head, the swirly twirlies. Don't let it pull you into ruminating thoughts because then it's not actually beneficial. I'd write down what your to-dos are for the next day and leave them in a place where you can find them so you don't forget when you wake up. I'd check your alarm. I'd do all the things that maybe stress you out or worry you. Maybe you take a warm bath, and something that can really help people is drinking a calming tea. There's a magnesium tea that everybody says helps them calm down and sleep. It has melatonin and L-theanine in it, and it's supposed to be really helpful. That could be something you get. But just having this routine of all self-soothing, all calming down. Don't keep animals in the bed for a while. It's in my video. I know people got really upset about that, but we just don't want any disturbances. I want you to be able to sleep soundly, and we have to get in this new routine. And it can take a little while, but maybe it's breathing and meditation before bed. Do calming things and then go to sleep and let me know if that helps, because that's my guess, that it's some residual stress that's hanging out that we haven't processed and we haven't calmed down, or something that's having us jolt awake. And if it keeps going on and this continues for a long time, I would definitely talk to someone. Not a long time. If this goes on for more than a couple of weeks, talk to somebody. Reach out to a therapist or a doctor in your area and figure out what's causing it. But this is what I would try first, as well as that video I linked down below. And the fourth and final question for this video is, art therapy. What are some benefits people can get out of this? Art therapy can be great. If we struggle to verbalize how we feel, or even have words, we don't know what's going on inside, we can't even express about our past trauma maybe, art is a great way to express that in a safer way. It gives us another medium to show and tell what's going on. And they often do it with children, but it's not something that only children do. Many adults can benefit from art therapy. That's my feelings collages I'm always talking about. That's technically art therapy, but it doesn't have to be drawing a picture of what your family looks like. It can just be an expression of anger. It can be a way to describe or show what happened to you. It can be through music. It can be through a lot of different types and mediums of art. And so the benefits are the same as therapy. It just gives us yet another way to process it through, especially if we struggle with the right words sometimes. And so I'm really a big advocate for art therapy. I actually looked into becoming an art therapist prior to deciding to become an LMFT, because there's different programs and different specialties. I think it's really great. And if you really struggle to find the words sometimes, it can be a really great way to start and a great way to open us up into the therapy realm and processing all that we may be going through. I hope you found those answers helpful. Thank you as always for your support. It's because of you that this year I was able to keep doing what I do. And I'm really excited for all the things to come in the new year. So stay tuned. We have some really cool video ideas, different styles, and even a podcast. So I'm really excited to see what 2019 brings for all of us. Have a wonderful and happy holidays, and know that we're all here to support if you need a little extra during this maybe difficult season. I love you all, and I'll see you next month. Bye.